Well, another thing that's of extreme interest when it comes to brains, all right, is the creation of the TIGGR report. Now, the TIGGR report in itself is interesting because it goes on about super soldiers, it goes on about centralized digital currency, and it goes on about creating a medicinal CBD and cannabinoid powerhouse in the UK. It also talks about releasing regulations to allow for more R&D to be progressed through CBD and cannabinoid products. All right. Interestingly, and this comes back to Steve Moore, right? Check out online a company called CRDG, right? The Cannabinoid Research and Design Group, right? Now I'm going to get this up as well. So hold on a second.
Mm. Um, Cannabinoid Research and Development Group. Oh, that one.
Oh yeah, I thought I had the
Oh, it's been easy to find. Why am I right here? In a news article. There we go, jumped over. Yeah.
let's not say anything about the mugshot of Steve Moore in that in that website. But let me just draw your attention to this first. In the about part, all right? The second paragraph on the right hand side. Our ambition is to develop and implement a comprehensive strategy to transform the UK into a global leader of cannabinoid research and medicine development. That is effectively the TIGGR report. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So you scroll down and you'll see that George Freeman MP is there. Now, he might not be an MP at the moment because, elections going on. He is, I believe, a Tory, and most of the Tories are jumping that sinking ship. But anyway, well, let's not cheer for that one. He is actually one of the three persons that authored the TIGGR report. Right, so you've got the creator of the TIGGR report fronting a group to push forward the agenda of the TIGGR report. Right, but it gets more interesting. See, he was also the Secretary of State for the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategies, which then transferred over to the Department for Business and Trade. They are the government department that has been running the TIGGR report. And ultimately, they also have connections. Now, I mentioned earlier, it's definitely GW, right? I've got a Freedom of Information request in with the Department for Business and Trade, which they've been trying not to answer since February this year. And the question that I asked was for all information relating to GW Pharmaceuticals and the Department for Business and Trade. Now, the key thing here is that the Department of Business and Trade was founded in 2023 after BEIS, the Department of Business and Energy and Industrial Strategy, was wound up. All right. So the fact that they have information in regards to GW is interesting considering Jazz has brought them. However, if you go to Jazz's site, you've got the GW cannabinoid portal, I believe. I saw it a few months ago. So in essence, I believe that whilst Jazz own GW, GW still pretty much seems like a controlling entity, shall we say. So moving on, if we scroll down, we see that lovely picture of Steve Moore. And then we scroll down further and we see Brains as one of their founding members, right? Now, this is the interesting thing. Brains Bioceuticals also are mentioned in the TIGGR report as providing advice and direction on the creation. Who else is also mentioned in there? The Centre for Medicinal Cannabis and Steve Moore, who created this group that was ultimately to push the TIGGR agenda. And the launch of this group was pretty much announced when George Freeman was announced as being the chair. is TIGGR in TIGGR in TIGGR. And when people kind of, turn around and have hope for cannabis in the UK, well, that hope should only exist if you're prepared to challenge it, because this entity here will be pushing for all CBD products to be defined as as medicinal, right? And ultimately, their whole function is to separate cannabis from cannabinoids, because cannabis is a dirty word. Cannabinoids is where the money's at. And
and they're going to lead us to, if they get their way 50 years from now, I'm an old man if I'm still fucking here fighting for a plant. And we've got a new super spice that's 25,000 times stronger than THC, and we've had 500,000 deaths in America, and they don't learn. They just don't fucking understand or care, or it's just money. It's just money, 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 because they're the same grubby hands that are pushing in the opioid lobby. They're going, no, we're going to move away from opioids. And the world's like, yes, move away from opioids. And then everyone's still like, well, what's the alternative? And they're like, well, cannabis isn't there yet. You can't grow that plant and use it as a painkiller. We have to get involved. Let us do it for you. Pay us.
Pharmaceutical standards, sir. No, but the thing is,
sorry,
if these guys and Steve Moore get their wish, shall we say, it's going to be bad news for the CBD industry.
Globally, it's bad news for cannabis, because this is part of the rescheduling agenda in the US.
Yeah. Well, there's lots we could talk about the US, mate. But it's not just the CBD industry that this will affect, right? You will end up having issues with the unlicensed cannabis for medicinal use market, right? Now, I believe in earlier conversations, we might have alluded to us both thinking that it's a stopgap measure, right? Well, here's something for you to consider, right? And I'm going to start with an interesting question. How do you think it became common knowledge that you were able to force decarboxylate CBD isolate into Delta 8? Think about it, but I will say this. When I was told of this in 2018, right, by a colleague who's escaped the industry now, bless him, I was like, wow. How that's jumping over a chain that shouldn't exist. And then you hear that solvents are used and the process is time sensitive, so you might get Delta 8, but you also might get Delta 9 or Delta 10 and THCV and whatnot. And it's like, wow, that's a bit interesting, but that sounds like seriously, seriously heavy work, right? Not as in the process, as in kind of getting your head around how it functions to then get to the process. All right. So how is it that we got CBD companies pondside who are like, oh yeah, I believe that there's been unofficial R&D going on, right? And it has been for some time. I believe that the reason why you see a lot of a lot of CBD companies getting away with medicinal claims is because actually there's someone taking notes. Not so much the MHRA saying, oh, we'll pounce on you for this, matey boy. We're talking someone possibly at GW, so possibly even a competitor. Because there is starting to be the rise of them, unless they're all closely interconnected.
I was just about to say that hasn't a new company just launched that's made up of several former board members of GW that are creating a pill version of Epidiolex, effectively?
Have they? Hold on a second.
I can't remember the name of the company. I saw it the other day.
I mean, hold on. A pill. Why don't you just get a binding agent, a capsule presser, and create a CBD isolate pill? I mean, that's all it'd be.
Avata, AVATA Biosciences.
AV what?
AVATA Biosciences. I'm looking at an article here by Sarah Sinclair, former guest on Cannabis Health. And yeah, they're saying they're developing a solid dose cannabinoid medicines, which is just a solid dose. The language these people use is wonderful. Yeah, for epilepsy and other neurological disorders, with a number of former GW pharmaceutical bosses on board.
Wow.
They're
Okay.
currently at clinical stage, I think, by the looks of this.
Dr. Chris Hayes. I think I've seen him in a few
They were
places.
formerly Sapient Therapeutics.
Right. That's interesting. I mean, you know, there is the potential of them being joined, but equally, there's the potential that they might have just gone their own way, got sacked by Jazz, and thought, well, you know, we know stuff. Let's
Well,
make things happen.
it's something we discussed. I think on one of the first appearances I had you on this. I'm trying to pull the anecdote together, so I'm not going to actually use that anecdote because I can't pull it together precisely enough to make it have merit. But we know from the 180 whatever it is plus patents held by GW, several of the patents, if not quite a lot of them, are held by the individual staffers and scientists and discoverers, and so there can then be core claims towards these things. We know obviously GW are pressing or in being pressed by sort of claims against them for CBD extraction, and the processing rather than the production of the products, as it were. And that's obviously a lot easier in industry to do. Whereas I think, like you say, everybody's quite happy to keep all this up in the air because it does feel like there is a puppet master somewhere. That there is somebody going, like you said, why was the Hemp Act allowed to go the way it was? And then during fucking COVID, the FDA suddenly went, oh, Epidiolex, yeah, Schedule 5. And no one ever questioned it. No one, and then they're talking about Schedule 3 in the States, and you're like, well, why is that then? Like, there's so many things that, like I said, that can't make sense, but then when you think of it in a conspiratorial sense, it feels too big almost. But then one of the things that kind of, I'm sorry for the loss of the two individuals, and there's probably going to be more individuals if I'm honest. But I'm kind of glad that a company is doing this because it then shows the level of malevolence these fuckers have with the Boeing whistleblowers.
Mm.
Like, I think that it's a similar level of conspiracy with this shit, if not fucking larger in terms of like the aeronautic industry is fucking, yeah, of a certain cap in size, and it's going to fluctuate and have its problems with, you know, domestic flights being banned and shit like that in Europe and various other regions. And the long term of that is going down, whereas the long term of cannabinoids, like you said, is very much an uptake. And if you're the company that owns the patents for all the things, you're God. Doesn't matter where it's made, how it's made, you're paid every goddamn day. If every medication is then a cannabinoid medication, if every extract is, then you're paid for everything. Oh, every gram goes through that. And, you know, like, I can see them trying to be that robber barons that we had during the second industrial revolution. Like, and you can already kind of see tech's going one way, and they're creating a massive, like, technocratic feudalistic kind of state online in the digital realm. And I think cannabis is that resource by which they can fundamentally take over the world. Like, we're still got all greenhouses and millions here and this and that. It's like, nah, mate, when you start talking trillions in plants and we're talking biofuels, like, look at Formula One. Like, their engine models, they're going back from 80-20 to like 50-50 from 2026. So they're moving away from electric hybrid engines, and they're trying to move back towards pure combustion, but using biosynthetic fuels. What would make one of the best biosynthetic fuels?